Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current cultural and social issues through a clinical lens. Hello, hello. All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. We have to find some missing information today. So let's take a look. Well, actually, let's do a tip of the day, folks. Hey, what am I thinking? Tip of the day. Know what you don't know. You're like, that's impossible. I don't know what I don't know. Exactly. Keep that curiosity, that skepticism. That doesn't mean be a conspiracy theorist. It means know what you don't know. Look, as a counselor, one of the things that's really important in my world, as a therapist, when I sit across from somebody, I'm always asking this question, not what are they telling me? I'm asking, what are they not telling me? I'm looking for those hints between the words, the paraverbals, and the nonverbal communications. See, like when the words say one thing, but their paraverbals or their nonverbals are saying something else, I'm like, there's a hint. There's a clue. Follow the morsel. Find the path. Now, the reason that we do that as counselors is because clients will try to tell us stuff, but there's embarrassment, guilt, shame. There's fear. There's this idea that there's a power differential. The idea that if I tell them, then, oh my gosh, they're going to judge me. There's a lot of reasons why clients struggle to talk to a therapist. It's the same for you when you're talking to a friend or a family. There's things you leave out with mom and dad, brother or sister, best friend, because you don't want to have that really hard conversation. I often will tell people, say what you're not sure you want to say. Just say it. Get it out on the table. Unfortunately, we are given terrible information from our culture. And so for today, knowing what you don't know means investigate what's not being said. Find the holes in the stories, because propaganda, by just the nature of being propaganda in a culture, means there's holes in the story. I was recently watching the Teflon DuPont thing. It's a movie. I don't know. I was trying to watch some of it anyway. And it's really interesting because it's omission that caused 99% of the damage. Now, if you're not familiar with that story, people died and didn't even know what they were dying from. But DuPont knew, apparently. I got to finish the movie. So we got to know what we don't know. When we see a gap, a gaping hole, rather than fill it in with assumptions, fill it in with questions. And so today I'm going to walk through some current event news. I went to Drudge. Those of you who don't know Drudge, the Drudge Report, they kind of gather all these news sources. Is it the best in the world? Probably not. But is it a way to get different thoughts and opinions? Oftentimes. Does it lean one direction or another? Look, they're just literally going out and grabbing things. So do they grab from some more than they grab from others? Of course, they're doing the same AI junk that everybody else is doing. They're trying to capture what's going to get your attention because they want to know. So if as a group of observers, we're leaning right or we're leaning left, it's going to probably follow suit because it wants to get you clicks. Now, I don't blame them for that. I understand the economics behind it. But I was looking at it today, and today, literally this moment, as I'm talking to you, the very, very beginning is Judge looms verdict today. Packer Cohen testimony eyed. Drudge Report. Okay. What is that all about? That's all designed to draw your attention and point it in a direction, folks. So the question then is, what are we missing because it's not giving it to us? Well, what else is going on in the world? Now, the Drudge Report does a good job in some ways because it gives you all kinds of other stuff. But today, this is why I'm doing this particular podcast today. I was going down the list and I was looking because, I was thinking, okay, there's going to be something on this Hunter Biden thing because apparently that's kicking off. And I went and I found one. And it took me to a site, and the only way to actually access the article was to either pay or download the app. And I was like, what the heck? Know what you don't know, folks. When they approach a certain topic in a different manner, in a way that forces you, in order to learn about it, you're going to have to do something that you don't normally have to do to learn about the stuff that's out there. There's a couple of things about that. Number one, it could be because they see it as such a big moneymaker. If they do, then you got to ask yourself, why is this particular thing such a moneymaker? What is it about it that makes so much money? Or you might want to ask a question like, who's going to make the money off of this? And where is it going to go? So, for instance, the Hunter Biden thing, this is what I was thinking. I was thinking, okay, this could be a ploy from the right or the left to make money. All right, that makes sense. All right, well, so I ask, who's gonna benefit the greatest from this? In this particular article, I don't know if the article is from a left leaning or a right leaning. So let's not assume. Let's just not assume. For a second, let's just say we don't know. What's the next most reasonable, Occam's razor, right? Next most reasonable possibility. So rather than just assuming, if we say, well, if it's the left, what question do we need to ask? Is this money going to be funneled to Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, or the Biden family in some way? Or possibly to an administrative office of some sort, the FBI, the Department of Justice, or something like that. Because as of right now, those agencies, even though they're supposed to work for the citizens of the United States, they report where? Ultimately to the administration. Joe Biden is running the administration. So you have to ask those questions. All right. If it's right leaning, this is how we find missing information. We ask the right questions. If it's right leaning, I would say, okay, is this a ploy so that the right leaning, in this case, the Republicans, can raise money? If that's the case, are they going to funnel that to, say, Donald Trump, or the trials going on with Donald Trump, or the fines that New York put on Donald Trump? You have to ask that question. You also have to ask a question something like this. If Trump ends up back in the White House, is that money that's being generated from Hunter Biden going to go to persecuting Hunter Biden? If you're not asking both sides of those questions, you're probably not actually looking for missing information. We got to be looking for missing information. It's really important. What if it's neutral? What do we do if it's neutral, folks? We still ask the question, what's the missing information? Well, truly, if it's neutral, we have to ask, then why do we have to pay for it or download the app? What is it that they want from us? How are we going to be marketed to? And how are they going to decide the way in which we're marketed to? I mean, those are all, if they're neutral, that's a legitimate question, because we want to look at their motivations, right? Like, that's kind of a big deal. Okay, let's burrow down a little further. I'm going to give you a couple more examples. I literally clicked on 3, 6, 7 different links. I'm just going to pick from one of those. Now, of those links, One of the things that I'm looking for is what is missing. So the very first link I clicked on is by Pew Research. It says more than half of Americans are following election news closely, and many are already worn out. Huh. So without looking up, whether Pew is left or right leaning, because a lot of you, honestly, you're just not going to take the time to do that. Let's take a quick look. That's the headline. And let's take a quick look because, the assumption here, honestly, is you're probably going to read about a quarter, maybe, of an article. So let's take a look at the first quarter of the article. It comes out of the gate. A majority of Americans say they are closely following news about the 2024 U.S. presidential election, a slightly higher share than in April of 2020. At the same time, many people are already saying they are worn out by so much coverage of the campaigning candidates, according to the Pew Research survey conducted this April. Okay, how closely Americans, and then there's this graph, how closely Americans follow election news. And in 2024, we're looking at 58%. In 2020, it was 52% in April. By October, it was 75% in October of 2020. But you go back to the 2016 election, and you saw an increase from 78, 74, 79 by November. In October, it was 74. So there was less interest in October of 2016 than in October of 2020. Now, there's an interesting information there, folks. What's missing? I would then say, why are they cutting off April of 2016? They didn't give me April. They started in July. They didn't give me June. They started in July. Why? Look, if you're not asking that question, then honest to goodness, you're missing something, because what in the world would cause them to literally start July of 2016? What happened before July of 2016? Folks, when you're looking for missing information and look, Pew Research has the data. It. Like it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. That they know what happened from January of 2016 to November of 2016 during elections. They know what happened in the 2020 election, which, by the way, in the 2020 election, they show you August of 2019 through October of 2020. But in 2024, they show you one data point, April of 2024. What's missing, folks? Why are they doing that? If you're not asking that question, you're being a bit of a fool. It distorts the data somehow favorably for the article. Period. It has to, because otherwise they would give us the entire, not the entire collection. We don't want the entire. There's too much to distill, but they could have given us multiple data points. Like in 2019, August, they gave us a data point. 2020 in March, April, June, September, and October, they gave us data points. In 2024, they gave us April. That is missing information. You have to have these markers to understand what the article's all about. So what do? More than half of Americans, it gives them that line. That whole line is dependent on, look, what happens if in February or March, it was at 80%? What happens if in February or March, it was at 25%? It changes our entire perspective on the election. Now, I'm not telling you which way to vote. That has not been a thing I have done here. I'm asking you, what's missing? Know what you don't know. You look for those gaps, those things that it's not telling you. Okay, it goes on and it makes a few big points, like the share of Americans who closely following election news who are closely following election news is slightly higher now than it was in April of 2020. Slightly, it was 52. Now it's 50, what, 8. In October of 2020. However, that share increased to 75%. So they're saying, ooh, it's going to go up, people. In other words, get yourself ready, buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to have a roller coaster of an election season. They're trying to draw you in and make you pay attention to more stuff. Okay, most likely. Like that, that's an easy Occam's razor, an easy path to draw, and means it's probably a pretty likely one. Do I know that for sure? Look, I said don't make too many assumptions. But maybe we should consider that possibility in the background and continue to ask questions. Fatigue over election coverage. Now, why would they be highlighting fatigue, folks? Although many Americans are following news about the 2024 presidential candidates, they are also experiencing fatigue over election coverage. So they're saying what we're getting is too much. So do you think that they're telling the media to slow down? That's not going to happen, folks. What they're telling you to do is pace yourself. It's a marathon between now and November. Don't read everything. Don't pay attention to everything. The man behind the curtain doesn't really matter. Like, I don't know why they're doing this. I don't actually know their lead. Don't really care, to be honest. These questions are still the same. It also goes on to highlight that younger Americans are far less likely than older ones to actively search for political news. So what does that mean? The news is going to start to cater to the older folks, and they're trying to draw the younger folks in, maybe. That's a possibility. They're saying, young people, get with it, folks. And look, it's always this way historically. The younger generations, it takes them a while to figure out their political leanings, what they should be doing, stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to go on to a second example. We're probably only going to do 2 or 3 examples total. But this one's interesting because this is such an election year, a bunch of garbage that happens. Race has to be at the top of your agenda. It has to be, right? Not necessarily. Like we are still in, whether you like it or don't like it, we are still in the freest country, probably at least one of the top freest countries in the world when it comes to race. If you're Asian in America, if you're Black in America, if you're white in America, there's optimism and hope for you. There just is, comparatively to other countries. Now, can we do things better? Absolutely. But listen to this. This is the highlight of the article right here. Biden's Black voter troubles are setting off alarm bells. What in the world is going on here? All of a sudden, Biden is being attacked by Politico, and we know, like, I don't have to look this one up. Politico is far left-leaning. Why is a far left-leaning outlet suggesting that Biden is a problem for getting Black votes? Why would they be doing that? That's to me, very reasonable question. When we're asking what's missing, know what you don't know. Why would that be the case? Then it goes on underneath the picture, says some Black operatives worry that the overtures that President Joe Biden and his team are making are directed toward the wrong slice of the electorate. What in the world is this language, folks? Ask yourself why this language is the way that it is. It's combative. Can you see that? Some Black operatives. What is this? An offensive, a military battle? Like, what in the world is this all about? And then they're saying that there's people being neglected, right? It says that presidential President Joe Biden and his team are making are making hold on, I'm going to reread it. Some black vote operatives worry that the overtures that President Joe Biden and his team are making are directed toward the wrong slice. That means they're telling you there is a right and a wrong group to talk to. Are you kidding me? Okay, so let me just put this out there. Is it possible that that is race baiting? Sounds like it. What are they saying? They're trying to say to you that if you're not looking over here, so ridiculous. I'm going to say this though. You're not black enough. Like that's what that highlight says. That is, I'm reading this for the first time with you folks. That is insane. What's missing? What's missing is this so far, and in one glimpse, is one of the most racist statements I've read this week. Oh my gosh. Okay. Then it goes on. Let's just take a breath. Go back to what we're doing. Prominent black officials, prominent, the elite, are warning, in other words, we're in charge, the Biden campaign that the president's efforts to keep black voters firmly and enthusiastically in his electoral coalition aren't working, and that time is running out to get his message across. So what, like when we're looking at this, we got to say what's missing. Who are the prominent black officials? Let's take a look. I'm genuinely curious. This is by Eugene Daniels and Lauren Egan. I don't know who they are, but how do they determine what the prominent black officials are? If you're not asking that question, you're missing the boat, because we are supposed to be saying what is missing. That's a key bit of information. So let's keep going. I haven't read any further. Now I'm super curious. The publicly voiced concern from these black Democrats isn't that the White House lacks policy achievements. It's that black voters aren't hearing about them. These black Democrats, I'm still left with the question, who are they talking about? Go on. I'm in a battleground state. This is in quotes. I'm in a battleground state. I know what has and hasn't been done. I felt a level of disconnection earlier on the message, on the messengers, and on mobilization, said Representative Stephen Horsford, Democrat of Nevada, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. He said he has brought this issue directly to the campaign. So we have one what may be called prominent black Democrat. I don't even know if Stephen Horsford is a black Democrat, to be honest. It didn't say he's black. So I'd have to honestly look that up, because here's the other funny part. I don't know who that is. So when we're talking about prominent, I mean, prominent where, how, like how many people know these people? I don't know. Then there's Jasmine Crockett, Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat. At least they're giving us some names. I mean, I do actually appreciate that. So they are answering one of the questions that I had. If they weren't, I would dismiss the article completely. Now, as it sits, I'm asking what's missing. For me, it's really easy. We got to look at these people and say, what are they about? Are they about equal application of the law? Are they about, are they propagandists? I mean, because a lot of politicians are literally just propagandists. I don't know. I would have to look into them, because unfortunately, I don't know who they are. I don't live in those states. It's hard enough, as you know, to keep up in 1 or 2 or 3 states, to keep up with all 50. Jasmine Crockett's a Democrat out of Texas. So I don't know much about her. I'm assuming it's a her. So Jasmine Crockett said a balkanized news landscape where voters are increasingly tuning into more non-traditional sources of information has contributed to the problem. In other words, they're saying people aren't listening to the big media outlets. So we got to make sure we're getting information in those little ones, the podcast land, like you. We got to make sure we're listening. So that's interesting. So what's missing though is what is considered traditional and non-traditional. If you're not asking that question, like I know some of you, like right now, what is considered traditional may 5 years from now is going to be totally different. This is an ever-changing landscape. So where you get your news does actually matter. And you got to be asking, then you have to ask yourself. You have to ask you, not them, not this article, not you got to ask you, where am I getting my information? If you don't ask that every single time, you will be missing key information. Where do I get it? And what is their agenda? Where do I get it? What is their agenda? Where do I get it? Because if you're only getting MAGA stuff, if you're only getting the Biden White House stuff, that's a problem, folks. It really, truly is, because you're not asking what you're missing. You're just missing it. Okay, I'm gonna jump to one more real quick because there was one more that caught my attention, and I am gonna see if I can find it real quick. Let's go on to. Okay. RFK Jr. files a complaint over potential exclusion from the debate stage. This is the Washington Post. The presidential campaign of independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announces Wednesday it had filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission about Kennedy's potential exclusion from a planned June 27th debate on CNN between President Biden and former President Donald Trump. Now that's interesting because the debates, there's really a very strategic way in which they're usually set up. And it's usually very simple. They go by the population who wants to hear from them. So I don't know, like it says, Kennedy's campaign is asking the FEC to act no later than June 20th to prevent the debate from taking place until the parties have come into compliance with the Federal Election Campaign Act to impose any appropriate fines and provide other remedies as necessary. So he's just saying, dude, put me on the stage. So not a bad article so far. Let's see, out of the Washington Post. So we know the Washington Post is left leaning. It's not typically super far left, but it's left leaning. CNN is far left most of the time. So it's interesting. And then, this month, it goes into this month. Trump said he was willing to debate Biden at 2 times in June and September that Biden had proposed, rather than traditional meetings organized by bipartisan commission on presidential debates. Soon after, both candidates announced they had agreed to 2 televised debates, one on June 27th. So what their argument is probably going to be is that this isn't a typical debate. This isn't one put on by the parties, essentially, even though it's more like I'm going to describe, it's more like they're saying here, I said, meet me out back by the track right after school. Okay, I'll be there. Yeah, you better be there. We're going to brawl. It's going to be like, okay, so that's more like what it's saying. It's interesting. And polls have shown that Kennedy would not have qualified to appear on a debate stage if Biden and Trump had agreed to meetings organized by the Commission on Presidential Debates. However, the network's proposed rules opened a path for Kennedy to qualify for the CNN debate. Candidates must be, by June 20th, appear on enough state ballots to give them a path to reach 270, which is the electoral votes, as well as receive at least 15% in 4 national polls that meet the network's standards. Okay, so they did set a criteria, and then the question becomes, this is what we got to ask. Does he meet the criteria? Kennedy had reached the 15% threshold in a third of his 4 polls needed. So he has currently not met the criteria. So it really, like, from my vantage point, I'm looking at this going, oh, this is actually a halfway decent written article. And I'm thinking, what's actually missing is it reasonable to set a deadline before the debate of, like, you have to meet it by here, because we can't just keep pushing it out until the moment of the debate, because that's not a reasonable thing to expect the debate preppers and all that kind of stuff. Now let me ask you this: where do you fall? Do you think he should be part of it anyway? Here's my question: what are they afraid of? Adding a third person that is doing reasonably well in polls as far as, overall numbers are concerned. My question is, what are they afraid of? Because remember what we're asking today, folks. What's missing? Know what you don't know. Ask those questions. We can make all the assumptions. We can Occam razor this thing to death. But at the end of the day, we got to be asking those questions. And they're very simple questions. Is it reasonable to assume that he's going to get there? Maybe we just say, put him on the stage, because chances are by the 17th of June, he's met the threshold. I don't know. Somebody out there knows better than I do. I mean, what the heck? Why don't we just create a poll and call it, like, he's at 24%? Any poll will do, right? Or does the poll have to matter too? It doesn't say that in this article. We should be asking that question. How do they determine the accuracy of the polls? Because as you all know, these polls, some of them are good and some of them really suck. And if all he's got to do is get 4, I mean, look, his campaign, not that you want to do this, this might cause problems, but his campaign could put on a poll and say, whoa, hey, look at this. In North Dakota, we got 21%. Because we polled 40 people, and and like 10 of them said, hey, that would be 25%, but still, you get the point. So maybe his own, uh, uh, campaign can put on the poll. I don't know. It doesn't clarify. So these are questions we should probably be asking, right? Look, the takeaways. Look, the tip of the day was actually, we'll start with that. The tip of the day is know what you don't know, folks. Know what you don't know. And honest, if you think you know a lot, you're the biggest fool of them all. Truthfully, you're missing probably more information than most, because there's way more content than can be distilled, filtered, absorbed by you or me. We have to be asking in our individual relationships, what is missing? I started with that at the beginning of this podcast. What are they not telling me? Wow, this couple continuously avoids the conversation of drugs or alcohol. Why? Is it because they're just, that's not a thing? But they're saying they're having 6 or 7 drinks a week. Whoa, I got that information and now they don't want to talk about it. What's going on? Well, look, we got to ask these questions. If you want to truly be a loving, kind, caring, informed, as much as possible person, a lot of it's about asking questions about what's missing. I hope you're getting the point here, folks. I went through a few examples, and honest to goodness, I did them on the spot. So that was new information for me too. I hope this is helpful for you in distilling content and asking for the missing information. Because let's be real, if you can do that, you're going to have a hand up over most people you encounter in your day. Most people, to be honest, don't do this, which is why I'm bringing it to you and saying, do this. Please do this for your good, for my good, for our community, for our nation, for our world. Ask these questions, please. You need to. I need to. It's got to happen, folks. But hey, remember also, I don't tell you what you got to do, even though I just did. I give you recommendations. Ultimately, you have to decide if it fits and works for you. If you think this is dumb information, dismiss it, move on. Don't bother with it. If you think this is great information, use it. Help it make you better. Share it with others. Strengthen our community by asking the better questions, folks. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.